When should you work with a recruiter? Remember, a recruiter is supposed to add value. They should make your job search easier, not harder. They should match you with jobs that you're well qualified for, are very likely to get an interview with, and that you are likely to eventually get hired for. Their whole purpose, remember, is to make the job search easier. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about some warning signs about bad recruiters for things that you should just ignore, and then talk to you about what a good recruiter looks like. I'm going to break it down into two groups, internal and external recruiter. Now, the first thing you can do is if somebody reaches out to you, immediately Google them. Google their agency. You'll be able to tell in a few minutes if they have no social presence, they're probably not that great at recruiting, because great recruiters understand that being out there and having a social presence is going to help them find candidates. Great recruiting agencies will have a high quality website with a significant number of jobs as well as what companies they work with. If they can't talk to you in terms of a reputation, don't work with them. So, once you've Googled the agency, here are warning signs that you can even see in their initial outreach. And if it's canned and if it's low effort, just ignore them. A lot of companies just do that on LinkedIn. They'll send you PMs or they'll send you emails. It is obviously generic. All they've done is replaced your name and then put the same thing underneath it. Ignore those. If they don't share the company name or the compensation range, huge red flag. If they ask for a lot of information up front, you'll see it at the bottom of their message or the bottom of their email. It'll be like a box grid where they ask you to fill in a ton of stuff. Those, for the most part, not worth working for. It's just too much work. If they're not willing to get on a phone call with you to figure all that stuff out, nope, don't work with them. Anytime there's a lack of details about the job, the team, and the company, whether it's in their email or if you contact them and ask them some basic questions, if they can't give you answers, that's a huge red flag. Just ignore them, ghost them. If they don't know or don't want to know anything specific about you, or if when you talk to them, all they're asking about is, do you have this skill? Do you have this skill? Do you have this skill? If they don't want to get into detail, they're not a good recruiter, because the whole point of a recruiter is to make sure that the person is a good fit. And just having skills is not enough to be a good fit. They'll care about the details. If they immediately ask you for your salary requirements, just ignore them. That's a huge red flag. That's not the first step. A good recruiter will tell you the range and say, is that something you're interested in? And then, if it's not, they'll possibly have other roles for you and they'll be interested. They'll say, okay, now what kind of range are you interested in? Maybe I have another role. That's a quality recruiter. But if the first thing they do is how much money do you want? And if you look at them and you see them working for any sort of vendor, where it's an IT consulting company and then they farm you out to somebody else, to like another larger company, that's a huge red flag. Why? Because they take a percentage of what the client pays. So you're not getting paid as much as you should be. They bill you out at one rate, and then they take sometimes as much as 50% for themselves, and you're left over with whatever they want to give you. That is a huge red flag. Do not work with recruiters that are basically farming you out to another company. Now, two types of recruiters, and let me tell you the benefits of an internal recruiter versus an external recruiter. And these are the quality ones, the ones that will work with you. And like I said, remember, they're going to make your job search easier. They're going to provide value above and beyond just telling you this job exists, okay? So first, internal. They are much closer to the team, the hiring manager, and the actual requirements of the job. So what are they going to be able to do with that? They'll be able to get you very specific information. They'll be able to make a connection between you and the team, between you and the hiring manager. And that's going to be their objective almost immediately. They're going to try to screen. They're going to try to figure out if you're a good match. And then step 2 is, hey, let me get you to talk to the hiring manager. Let me get you into a phone screen. And they're going to have the highest quality initial outreach because they've done the highest quality screening. They understand the job better than anyone outside of a very specialized external recruiter, and I'll get to that in just a second, but they're going to understand the job very, very well because they have a close relationship with the team and they've probably filled similar openings in the past. And so they're going to be able to do that screening and know exactly what it is about you that makes you a good fit for this. And so if you ask them, hey, why do you think I'm a good fit for this? They'll be able to tell you. And you'll get something specific. They're going to care about details about you, and that's going to result in an outreach that you get that it feels personalized and you understand, yes, this is actually a good fit for me. They're also going to be able to best move you forward through the process. Like, that's the biggest value of working with an internal recruiter is they're going to get you fast-tracked. They've already screened you. They have a very high level of confidence that if they put you in front of the hiring manager is going to immediately want to talk to you, and they're going to fast-track that process because that's their role. And they'll also be more engaged throughout the process. And if you have trouble, if you have questions, they'll be able to answer them because they control the hiring process, the behind the scenes automation applications. They actually control that life cycle. And so they're going to be able to get you to the people that you need in order to get you help. They'll clarify. I mean, they're a great internal recruiter will take your hiring time down by weeks because they're going to streamline the process. They want to get you in because they are as close to the need as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that external recruiters are bad. It really doesn't, because external recruiters have some amazing benefits too. The first thing is they are specialized to source hard to find candidates. These are candidates that the companies themselves are unable to find. So they bring in somebody who's very good, who's, an expert recruiter in that area, and they're almost a domain expert. They'll know exactly what capabilities you need to have. They know how to look at a background. They may actually be even better at doing that initial screening because they have a level of expertise that maybe an internal recruiter hasn't been able to get because they're more of a generalist. But when you look at the type of screening that they do, it will be intense. And so they're going to be interested in you. They're going to want details about you in the first outreach. They're going to have very good details. You even might have somebody say, hey, look, this is exactly why I think you're going to be perfect. And they may even start pitching you the job in that initial outreach because they know you're somebody that's hard to find. You're someone who is really that they're going to benefit by just building a relationship with, if nothing else. So they're interested in your objectives. Another huge benefit, they work with multiple companies. When you work with an internal recruiter, you only have access to their opportunities, but an external recruiter is probably working with multiple companies. They have multiple opportunities. And since they're an expert, remember, they're fairly niched. They're going to be able to have they have access to a broad range of opportunities for you that probably fits your profile as well. So if one company isn't a great fit for you, if you don't like the company, they're probably going to have 4 or 5 other opportunities for you. And so you'll be able to get access to more companies and more opportunities working with a high quality external recruiter. They're also just that level of domain specific expertise. There's strong relationships with the business, with the hiring manager. They have a level of credibility because they've established a track record with the business, with that hiring manager, using their expertise. And so when they put you to the front of the line and they say, hey, this is a candidate, they basically bypass that really painful hiring process and filter and everything else that makes hiring so painful. It's going to get directly to the hiring manager. And like I said, there's a level of credibility there that puts your name at the top of the list. And they're lending a little bit of credibility to you, which is a huge benefit. And finally, they're incentivized to get you hired. And so they're going to help you present yourself in the best light. They don't just take your resume and ship it. The best recruiters are going to look at your resume, going to look at your profile, and they're going to say, okay, look, here's what I recommend we change. Here's what I recommend we highlight. They'll probably help you rebuild your resume slightly so that you present yourself better, so that you are more likely to be that candidate who is interviewed. They're going to have details, and this is true for internal and external recruiters. They'll have details on the hiring process, on the interview process. They may even help you prepare, especially external recruiters, will help you prepare in some cases and say, hey, look, this is what you need to read up on. This is what you need to prepare for in the interview. Here are how the rounds work. In the previous times that I've worked with candidates, here's exactly what the kind of questions that they've been asked are. And here are the most successful types of answers. Here are the directions that they want you to take answers in, because they've spent time working with candidates and they've asked the question, hey, how'd the interview go? They actually follow up. That is the sign of an excellent external recruiter, is they're able to tell you this is what the interview process is going to look like. And they can help you prep because they've followed up with candidates and they've asked the questions. What kind of questions did you get asked? What kind of answers did you give? How do you think they responded to you? They follow up because they care. They want to get candidates hired because that's how they're paid. So they're incentivized to do all of those really high quality pieces. And what you find with the other types of trash recruiters, they're just concerned with numbers. They're hoping that if they send enough candidates forward, they'll just get lucky. And that's not the type of recruiter that you want to work with, because that's the one that's going to waste your time. So remember, the benefit of a recruiter is not showing you that a job exists. The benefit of a high quality recruiter, whether they're internal or external, is that they make the process easier. They make it more likely that you will succeed. They are there to support you and the business, especially if they're internal. They want the business to get the highest quality candidates possible. So they are there to make sure that the people that they're reaching out to are the most likely. And that's why it's most likely to get hired, because that's going to result in a better experience for you. And that's what you want to work with. That is the best time to work with a recruiter. Bottom line, it should be a benefit to you, because remember, they get paid to do this. It's not a free service. So if you're working with a recruiter, make sure that that recruiter is bringing something to the table, not only for the business that they represent, but also for you. They represent you in many cases just as hard as they represent the business. So you can expect your job search to be easier and more successful. But if you end up working with a trash recruiter, they can take opportunities away from you. So make sure the recruiter is bringing something to the table, that they're going to be helping you specifically. And if it feels like they don't care or they're not willing to put any time into working with you, that's a huge red flag. Really, apathy it means they're a trash recruiter and they expect you to do all of the work, which if you're going to do that, why not just apply to the job directly?